You're listening to 94.4 FM Salford City Radio, the Friday Sports Show.
You're listening to Salford City Radio, 94.4 FM, the Friday Sports Show with your host, Jimmy Petruzzi, bringing you news from the local area and around the world. And we're very fortunate in this show to have interviews from the world's best athletes, sports people, trainers, coaches, you name it, we've had them on the show. We also are very keen on increasing participation and awareness of different sports, and we've been very fortunate to have interviewed people from the local area and around the world. We've brought Salford to around the world and around the world to Salford, and we've also have a segment that we speak to some of the leading people in the field of psychology and related fields who've given us an insight into their area of expertise. Today we have a special guest who I've had the privilege of working with. He is the media officer at Bacup Borough Football Club, a club that no doubt some of you will be familiar with. Also, he is a freelance media and multimedia consultant. He's going to give us insight into what it's like. He's had the opportunity to work in different places around the world, but also an insight into sort of non-league as well, and what he does, and no doubt this will be really interesting for people who are aspiring to go into media, people who are in the media already, and maybe want a bit of an insight into what our following guest does. So Stephen Brown, welcome to the show. Great to have you on board.
Hello there, Jimmy. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, very good, thanks, Steve. Very good indeed, and it's great to have you in the show. And Steve, the media office at Bacup, you do a great job. I'm sure some of the listeners have heard your commentary. Yourself, I think that's great that you do that, and certainly there's been times that I haven't been able to get to the game, and I'll tune in, and it's sort of great commentary, straight to where wherever anyone is, as long as it's safe to listen, and they're not sort of and they're okay. But tell us where it all began for you, Steve. How did you get involved in the media side of things?
Well, it was around about 11. Maybe possibly 12 years ago, Jimmy, I started in radio at a radio station called Drystone Radio, which covers the Skipton area, so that's the Craven area, and also over towards the Worth Valley area, over towards Ilkley. And I started doing a few late night shows, so I was kind of the last one in, so I got like the leftovers, so to speak. And then as I progressed and started to learn more skills and get more expertise in broadcasting, I was kind of promoted to the breakfast show, which I did for quite some time, covering an area and listenership of over 100,000, which was really good to get that opportunity to broadcast on the breakfast show. And I also did the drive time show as well, and I was at Drystone up until late 2019, and that was when I really started to get involved in more kind of media side of things, and Bacup Borough and working with Brent Peters was an opportunity that I wanted to take, and I've been there ever since.
Absolutely, and just on that, I mean, you have the show with Brent Peters. It's a great show. I think that certainly whenever I've had the opportunity to watch it, it's really informative, and I think yourself and Brent really bounce off each other really well. It's a great show. It's an honest and upfront show. You're always going to get an honest opinion from Brent no matter what on the game, and I think you guys bounce really well together, and obviously you've done it for a while now. How have you found the show? I mean, it's sort of getting out there. I mean, people are listening to it, watching it even, I should say. Where did the idea come for that show, Steve?
Well, the idea was, it was really the pandemic, it was COVID, which brought about the show. We still wanted to interact with the supporters. We knew it was important to give the supporters and give football people a bit of a footy fix. And because I'd worked in live streaming before, previously 3 or 4 years ago, I've worked with other football clubs in the past. It was a great opportunity to link the two together and keep our supporters engaged with the football club, which I think we've managed to achieve that.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. I certainly think that the atmosphere at the ground now, it's absolutely buzzing, really, and anyone who sort of wants to sort of check out football, non-league football, there's been people who've come to the game who aren't. Well, I mean, I've spoken to a couple of people when I've been to the game that have just popped along. Really, not a fan of it, not a fan as such of any team, but just sort of heard about the buzz around Bacup, and I think certainly sort of the show that you guys put on there, creates intrigue. And is that? I mean, you've had feedback from other sort of fans from other clubs who sort of listened to the show, watched the show, and thought, great, I'll come down and see what Bacup's all about.
Yeah, certainly, Jimmy. Especially with the two shows that we've got the Sports Bar show, and now recently over the last 2 months introduced the Rewind show. But with the Sports Bar, it was fantastic because we were able to engage with counterparts and people within the footballing world. Some great guests on. We've had Jonathan Norcroft from the Sunday Times. He joined us late last year. It was also Keith Hackett, former world-class referee, and also Adrian Bevington, the man who was in charge with the England team. So
brilliant.
We've had some excellent guests on in that time, but also at the same time, Jimmy, we were able to increase the exposure of Bacup Borough as a semi-professional football club, because people were linking in and thinking, this Sports Bar show is really good, but who does it belong to? And we were able, through that growth, to introduce Bacup Borough to an audience who previously didn't know we existed.
That's really interesting.
It was really good.
Yeah, that's really interesting, to be fair. I mean, I have sort of, bumped into a few people who've sort of spoken about the show as well, and obviously the other stuff around the media. Even supporters of other clubs have sort of taken note of that. But I think there's sort of, I suppose there's a chemistry, Steve, with you and Brent, really, which is that something that sort of you got that sort of has organically developed, or how does that work? I think it's sort of.
I think what's happened there is we're both, as you know, as Jimmy, you spend a lot of time with Brent, and we've been fortunate to spend a bit of time together over the last couple of months. But it is organic, and I think it's down to the fact that we were both honest guys, and we both have the same kind of passion, even if it's at different levels. We both have a passion for the game, and I respect his area of expertise, and he respects mine.
Absolutely.
And together we've been able to grow and forge this relationship, which seems to be working. Absolutely.
I think so. I think that you guys really bounce off each other really well, and even for the non-football fan, just to tune in, I think the show presents a lot of value, and I think it's really, really great for someone, even if they're new to football, who want to sort of tune in. And non-league football is brings something different, I think, to professional football. But we've certainly seen some interesting people at Bacup. At the point of, this is a pre-record, so the point of airing it might be a week or so from now. But Paul Scholes on the weekend, and maybe he might be interested to get on board the show. Steve, I mean, a message out to Paul Scholes if he's listening. Salford is local, or at least his sort of team is local anyway. Would you welcome Paul on the show, Steve?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I know he's a very he's a private man, is Paul, and I think that's one of the beauties. He always goes watching his son, as we know, Aaron Scholes, a player for Chadderton FC, and he's always there at the games, and I think he enjoys it because he doesn't get pestered. He doesn't get oined for photographs or for signatures, for autographs. He just goes about his business, has a cup of tea, maybe something to eat, and watches his son play football. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it'd be great to have someone with his experience and knowledge on the Sports Bar or on the Rewind. Yeah, it'd be great.
Absolutely. So if you're listening there, Paul, to Salford City Radio, there you go. You get in touch with Salford and get in touch with Bacup, I should say, Steve, and be great to get. I suppose it'd be great to get his take on like he says, non-league in general. But who better to sort of have, yourself and Brent, who've got so much experience, and obviously Brent's got a lot of experience. It'd be great to see a show like that. I mean, sort of going back to yourself in terms of your own career, you've been in media for a long time now, Steve. You've got a lot of experience. What are some of your highlights of being in the media?
I think probably one of my greatest highlights so far is doing the international commentaries, and anyone who follows me on social media will know that I'm a massive fan of the Gibraltar National League and what goes on in Gibraltar. I spent 10 years of my life there in the forces. I was part of the Royal Gibraltar Regiment for almost 10 years. That's where I met my wife, and we lived there, and I have such an affiliation and passion for watching Gibraltar football flourish. And since they've been accepted into UEFA and FIFA, it's been great to see their progress. Now, of course, they're a million miles away. It's only a population of about 30,000, and there's players coming up through the ranks now. There's a pathway, and it's encouraging to see. So I think one of my largest achievements to date would be doing the international commentaries for Live Sports FM and covering the games against Latvia and Macedonia in the Nations League was certainly one of my highlights. And another one, working with the radio station, is back in 2017 we were voted Community Radio Station of the Year.
Wow.
Which was great, and a lot of that was down to our coverage of the Tour de France, which came through Yorkshire in 2014, and then we had the Tour de Yorkshire as well.
Yes.
And we were able to put 30 broadcasters on the road, on the street, between, I think it was the stage 4, between Halifax and Leeds. And we covered that from 9 a.m. in the morning till 6 o'clock, not one break, and we were able to do that. And to be able to achieve that as a volunteer community radio station is no mean feat.
No, absolutely. I'm sure anyone listening from the radio, from Salford Radio, would certainly agree with that. That's for sure. It takes a lot of organising and planning, and credit to you guys for doing that. I mean, what sort of also fascinates me is you mentioned there Gibraltar. I mean, what's it like an international game? That's sort of, I suppose, international football. It's it brings its own sort of the international football is a pinnacle, really. What's it like for any of our listeners sort of who want to get a bit more insight into sort of commentating on international games, Steve?
A lot of it's preparation, of course. The different names, having to do the research and find out where all the different players are situated, how many caps they've made. So preparation is certainly a big one. But just getting involved initially, if you want to get involved in commentary, go along to your local semi-professional football club. As a volunteer, because any club would rip your hand off at giving them increased exposure for free.
Absolutely.
And it is just a fantastic place to start. And of course, community radio as well. I know a lot of community radio stations that cover their local semi-professional football clubs and do an excellent job as well.
Absolutely.
It just gives the individual the foundations that they need.
Absolutely.
To take it to the next level.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point, and I think that it's one of them really, where it's sort of putting the hard yards in, and that's the sort of key. We sort of see the glitz and glam of the Premier League, and which is great, but non-league is a whole different entity. You're really up close to the supporters, to the players, and do you find that at sort of Bacup? I mean, Bacup is, I think, a communal club in every sense. It's quite a close club, and it represents the community. I think it gives the community a great opportunity to sort of go out there and sort of watch football. But do you find that the sort of the media stuff you've done in Bacup, you're there and you get a real feel for the supporters, the players, and the club?
I do get a feel for the fans. Going in the bar at half time and speaking to the players, the coaching staff, and the supporters, of course, are full time after a game. You just get a real feel. The football club, but sometimes because it's a match day and you're so busy and you're wrapped up in what you've got to try and achieve to make sure the broadcast and the live stream are working effectively, sometimes you could come across as being a little bit ignorant or not engaging properly. But we've all got a job to do. But it is great to be a part of a club like Bacup Borough. I'm sure it's the same for all non-league football clubs up and down the country. Is that connection that there seems to be? It's almost football that a time forgot. You go back into like the talking to your dads or talking to your granddads and how the players used to engage with the supporters in the bar after the game.
Absolutely.
We've lost that at the professional level.
Yeah, great point.
But at the non-league level, it's still alive and kicking. It's still there.
That's a great point, Steve. It's a great point, and I can certainly vouch for that from experience. Where certainly in my first stint with Salford Radio, I won't name names. It was a Premiership club. We had the opportunity to sort of go out there and interview, and it was different. This was a few years ago, and now it's not a fault of anyone. It's just the way the game's changed and rules and regulations, and it's completely different, really. I think for me, at least in my opinion, I don't know what anyone else thinks, but I certainly think the game at the highest level is moving away more and more from the fans, which is a shame, really, because the fans make the game, don't they, Steve?
Yeah, yeah, they certainly do, and it does seem detached from the support. Supporters make football. We've seen that, as you've alluded to already, Jimmy. The fact with no supporters in a stadium, it's totally dead.
Absolutely.
And it is the fans that bring the game alive. Without the supporters, it's nothing. Absolutely.
And that's a great shout. And I suppose in your career you would have had different challenges as well. And I suppose I'm sure there's sort of people of any age really, but the young people listening as well, thinking I'd like to maybe get into media, and they see maybe the other side of media sort of getting out there and being around the players and sort of. But what are some of the challenges, Steve, for any sort of young person contemplating a career in media they're going to face?
Challenges is, you've got to keep on trying. For many attempts I've tried to get into broadcasting in certain positions, and quite often the door is slammed in your face. You've got to persevere, and if it's something that you really want to do, something that you're aspiring to do, don't give up, and don't let anyone say that you can't do something when it's quite clear that you can. You can do anything you want to do. What I would do is do lots and lots of research, get to know your craft, listen to some of the, if you want to get into sports commentary, then listen to the commentators, the Clive Tilsley of this world, the John Elms.
Absolutely.
Listen to these guys, because these are at the top of the tree. And more often than not, you'll find I've in recent over the last 18 months, I've become really good friends with John Elm. Well, anyone who doesn't know who John Elm is, John Elm is a sports commentator. He's done 10 World Cups, 6 Olympic Games, been employed with the BBC,
phenomenal.
Works out in India, works out the other side of the world. He's done work in Australia. He's been around the globe, and he is such an humble man. And what you'll find with a lot of these sports commentators, they are approachable. If you ask them questions, they will. It might take a little bit of time, but they will reply.
Yeah.
And they will give you the tools that you need to be able to grow in the profession.
Absolutely, it's a learning.
So
yeah.
Just do the research, and if you're really interested in what you're doing and you've got a passion for it, then certainly pursue it, because there are opportunities there. And maybe going to university, getting involved in sports journalism, getting your degree, and then see if you can work with the local football clubs, maybe as a part-time, as a volunteer. Because if you offer your services up for free, chances are there's going to be more opportunities come your way, and it's something for the CV.
Absolutely. That's a great shout, Steve. Just keep in there, and obviously it's not always a level playing field. Some people do have more opportunity for one reason or the other than others getting into it. But if you hang in there and you keep in there for long enough, then I'm sure things will come your way if you really want it. But in terms of your own, you mentioned obviously some huge names in the world of commentary there. Obviously, the commentary, I think it's unique. I've not really come across anything like that before. The way you guys do the commentary for the Bacup on the weekend. Talk us through that, Steve. I mean, what was the idea behind there? I mean, I think it's great that obviously, when you play the teams playing away, it's not always easy for fans to get the games. If they're away, they can sort of switch on. But what was the idea behind doing the commentary?
For me, Jimmy, it's all about exposure for the football club.
Yes.
It's all about, and also, if you put your commercial hat on for a second, it is a platform to sell advertising. It's a platform to increase the financial benefits of the football club, because you can use the platform as a sponsors or partners platform for advertising local business, regional business, national business. But it's just another arm to the commercial entity of a football club, and I just think it helps grow the football club, not just for its own supporters, but also the visiting supporters and people maybe listening on the other side of the world. Maybe they previously used to live in the area, and they want to stay in touch with what's going on in their their origins, and listening into Bacup on the other side of the world.
Absolutely.
And with the world web as it is, and the technology that we have at our disposal these days, it's so easy, isn't it, for people to click onto the YouTube channel or Spotify or iTunes and link in and be a part of the journey.
Absolutely, and I suppose you could even. I mean, with this day and age, with sort of people having like internet access as well. I mean, there's a case for listening to the show at the game as well. I think if you want to, commentary, there is a sort of a case for tuning in terms of you watch the game, and certainly there's been times when. You watch maybe a Premier League game and you might have back in the day, the radio on to listen into the commentary in the background. So there is a case who come to the ground too, Steve, and maybe have the sort of commentary, put the earphones on if they're okay with that, and tune in to follow the game in that way.
Yes, certainly. But any way which helps the club move forward, it can only be beneficial. To the long-term future of the football clubs. Because as we said earlier, a lot of people, when we started the Sports Bar show, a lot of people that we were interacting with hadn't even heard of Bacup Borough before. But because we're doing something different, and we're actually going down avenues what other semi-pro clubs haven't yet done, we've kind of set the standard in some respect at Bacup Borough, which is great.
Absolutely. And I think the thing is as well, with you guys, it's like there's no, it is non-biased. I mean, you tell it like it is, to be fair. I think that's obviously, connected to the club, you're the media officer, sort of, Bacup, you see the players and the manager and that sort of stuff. I suppose it's not always easy. I would imagine from a commentary point of view, but is that something that you sort of work on? I mean, obviously, you're passionate about the football club, Steve. You can see that, but is that something that you sort of work on to sort of basically tell like it is? I mean, I caught some of the St Helens game because I couldn't get to it, and I thought that was spot on really. With
So it's for me personally, Jimmy. It's personal preference. It's got to be like that. And I think because I've had the experience of working in radio previous to coming to Bacup Borough. It is so important to have integrity in broadcasting, because that integrity will take you a long way. People were tuning in. I know that we had some excellent comments from the supporters of Chadderton the other day, who came onto social media and said, "Fantastic listen."
Yeah.
Now that is great because in the word, to coin a phrase, in the words of Roy Walker, say what you see.
Yeah.
And I hope that I always come across that way. The fact that you've got to say it as it is, They can't have that bias. Otherwise, you will not build a reputation.
Absolutely. And I think as well as that, it's like a perfect fit. I think obviously you mentioned there Bacup, and there's been people who haven't been familiar, but you look at the history of Bacup, you look at the work that Brent Peters has done there, and you think some of the players that have sort of come through the ranks and obviously played for the club. I mean, are people sort of surprised when they sort of see, some of the huge names that have played for Bacup Borough, that sort of for Brent and some of the players he's produced? Do you get that as people come to maybe here and get to know the club a little bit more, and they realise that there's been some huge names that have come to Bacup?
I do get that. Yeah, I do get that. From time to time, Jimmy, that does happen. People come to the club and they look around the club and they look at the facilities. We're not, the streets aren't paved with gold, are they, in Bacup? But the supporters are coming to the club and they're thinking, well, he's managed to get so many talented players to come and play over the decades.
Absolutely.
And that is just down to Brent Peters' passion for the game.
Absolutely.
He's able to, I think what he used to say to me was, he was able to get Rolls-Royce players on mini minor money.
Yeah.
Maurice minor money, he used to say. And that was all due to Brent Peters' passion, not only for the football club, but for football in general.
Absolutely.
And people like David May and Ben Thornley all bought into that ethos.
Absolutely.
Brent Peters, and that's something I think that's one of the reasons why we get on so well, is because, one, we are honest, two, we're passionate about the game, and three, we all both want the same thing, and that is for the success of the football club.
Absolutely.
Both on the pitch and off the pitch.
Absolutely, and I suppose the last 2 years or so, it obviously it hasn't always been easy. The pandemic last year, and I mean, I know Brent works around the clock. There's no sort of is working all the time, and not just on the field but off the field as well. I think that we've spoken about that before in terms of what it involves. What's involved in the non-league club isn't just on the field; it's outside the field. So just keeping the club there is a huge achievement in one sense, and sort of building from there. And obviously, as you know, it's an exciting set of young players, and hopefully, they kick on and sort of, reach their potential and win things. But certainly there's a great atmosphere at the club now, and I think when the team is playing really well, in particularly, the fans get behind them, and there's a buzz about the ground as well. In terms of yourself, Steve, I mean, what's sort of your vision going forward? I mean, you sort of, you sort of got Gibraltar, you Bacup. I mean, where do you sort of see yourself going forward? More of the same sort of. What's your vision?
It's a difficult one, that, Jimmy, because of course, you should always, whatever profession you're in, you should always want to make it as high up as possible. You should always, because once you stop having those dreams, it's game over, isn't it? So you've always got to kind of move on to the next thing. But at the moment, the project, I went into Bacup with Brent back in December of 2019. We stripped it right back because the social media content, the website, was all dated. It needed a total rebrand and revamp. And I think I've managed to do quite a lot. I'm almost a one-man band, apart from the brilliant Andrew Knight, who joins me on the.
Absolutely, his credit. I mean, didn't forget. I was going to, get around to giving him some credit. He's been phenomenal as well. Absolutely.
But all the social media activity you see with Bacup Borough on all the platforms is done by myself. Now, I think we've managed over the last couple of years to take it to a different level. Hence why there's more people coming into the ground now. We had our largest crowd of the season so far at the weekend. So people are coming back to Westview. I think there was a story a few weeks back. Andrew was talking to someone who hadn't been to the club in 20 years.
Wow.
But he'd seen our activity going on social media, the fact that the club were doing a sports bar show, and they're on YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and everywhere else, and even TikTok. And that had managed to bring him back to Westview.
Brilliant.
Now, that is so powerful.
Brilliant. That's
and
fantastic.
Social media has achieved that, and also with our partners, because we've got the platforms to showcase and increase exposure of local and regional business. It allows for commercial entities to get involved with the club, which is going to bring more revenue and more of a finance streams coming into the club.
Absolutely. And if anyone's sort of listening who wants to maybe know more about what you do and the club and the commentaries, Steve, where can they get in touch in terms of to tune in and or maybe if there's any opportunities to sort of get involved in anything that you're sort of working on, and just maybe generally just drop you an email to find out more.
If anyone wishes to get involved with Bacup Borough, coming on as a volunteer, maybe you're a student who's aspiring to take your work to the next level, then you can get in touch with me at stephenbmedia@gmail.com. So you can send me an email that way. You can also find me on Twitter, Stephen B Media, and all the stuff that we do is on all the Bacup Borough platforms, including the YouTube page, which is Bacup Borough Media. On all the videos, all the live streams that we've done, and the match day commentaries can all be found on there, and the website as well, which is BacupBoroughFC.com. Everything's on there, and if people want to get involved, and maybe they want to take it to the next level, drop us a line, get in touch, and come
absolutely,
along and join us.
Yeah, no doubt we've got listeners from who are on the media course. Salford University's got a great great program in the media, and they're sort of, if they're looking for a template and someone to learn from, yourself, Steve, I think they sort of not going to get much better than that, really. I think in terms of what you've put together there, and it's phenomenal, really. And I always sort of encourage people to sort of get down.
Yeah, Jimmy, we don't, as you know, sir, because you know me quite well. We don't have the resources. But it's kind of, we make magic happen with 2 plastic cups and a piece of string. But because I've kind of been doing it a while, I'm able to get away with it, because that's what needs most at a small club. You don't have the resources of a Premier League club, like where they can throw money at a situation.
Absolutely, and even some of the clubs in the league now, they're sort of they like you said, it's a finance thing. They can sort of put more money towards it, or put finances towards it, and
iron over the cracks.
Absolutely, that's for sure. And but I think experience is definitely counts for a lot, and that's a big deal. I think one thing's for sure, Steve. I think you can learn in the classroom, and there's sort of not taking anything away from the lecturers. I'm a lecturer myself, albeit not for media, but experience is the sort of key. You get out there, you do it, and you get there on a Saturday, the buzz of the ground. I've said it before. I don't think there's anywhere in the world I'd rather be than at a football club on a Saturday with the buzz in the town centre, and people coming to the game, and the atmosphere of the game is phenomenal. And to be in the media like yourself, that I think for anyone to experience that in itself is priceless. It's something you can't obviously learn in the classroom.
It is priceless. The cold Tuesday nights on the scaffolding at Westview, or wherever it might be absolutely pouring it down, and you're trying to get a connection because the Wi-Fi's not working, and you're holding an umbrella with one hand and trying to log into your computer with the other. It just it gives you the foundations you need, and it's character building for the future.
Absolutely, and that's for sure. And like he says, even the away games where the internet connection might not be working as well. If you're out there and in a part of the the world where the internet connection may not be as robust as so there are obviously sort of, but all in all, I think the buzz when the end product, there must be a buzz, Steve, when you see the end product. It's phenomenal, to look back on it, and
It is, Jimmy. I always say that a lot of it is preparation. Preparation is key. On a match day, it's probably 80% preparation,
Yes.
80% of it, and then the rest is production. Because if you can get the preparation right regarding, like you say, if I'm going to go up to Cumbria,
Yeah.
I need to know what the bandwidth is going to be. I need to know is it 3G, is it 4G?
Yes.
What do I need to take with me? What am I going to need? A battery pack which is going to last me longer than 3 hours because I might not have access to a main socket. All these little details that need to be sorted prior to going to location.
Yeah, and absolutely. And that's a great point you made there. I mean, sort of, one thing to take into consideration there that you mentioned there, Steve, I think we live in a world these days where people have been sort of spoiled with technology and like, the big broadcast and the Skies of this world, the BTs of this world, for example. And I think that, most fans can understand that, it's not easy. You might be sort of somewhere in the country where you don't have great internet access. But there's also an undercurrent of people who can be unforgiving too, Steve, where they, I find these days, that there can be, that sort of unforgivingness in terms of, okay, well, you're doing the best you can in the situation you're in, and there's going to be challenges at times where, it's through no fault of your own, and the internet might have an issue. It could be, anything really.
Well, yeah, there's always going to be something which could cause or has the potential to cause you some problems. But you just hope that the people who are tuned in and listening and watching or have some kind of understanding of what you need to go through in order to send them a good signal.
Absolutely, and it's I think for the most part, like he says, I mean, no doubt it's down to the preparation you guys do, and you are able to sort of to bring the game to as many people listening as possible. But it's been great of you to join us, Steve. I found that really interesting and informative myself. So no doubt plenty of people listening will have found the same as well. And obviously, if they're sort of interested in them, or you've given the details before, so get in touch and hopefully go from there. So thanks again, Steve.
Please do. As I said, Jimmy, if there's any aspiring young sports journalists and they want some information, then please don't hesitate to drop me a line, and I'll certainly put you in the right direction.
Absolutely, that's great stuff, Steve. I really appreciate you coming on board the show. That was Steve Brown, who's the media officer at Bacup, but also does freelance work. And as you mentioned there, he's worked with Gibraltar. He's got a vast amount of experience in the media industry. And you really encourage you to sort of check out his work, because it's second to none. And when you consider, all things considered, the resources available comparatively to some of the the bigger broadcasters, it gives them a good run for their money, and do tune in, irrespective of whether you're a Bacup fan or maybe you're a fan of the opposition. Do tune in on a Saturday. It's some unbiased commentary straight to your home, and even better still, pop down to the ground as well if you can. So it was Steve Brown on the show, Salford City Radio, the Friday Sports Show. Host Jimmy Petruzzi, bringing you news from the local area and around the world with the aim of increasing awareness, participation of sport.